ready.
Okay, I'm here now.
Yay!
Okay, here. All right, let's go.
Yes.
It's about to be it.
Indeed. Oh, Pablo's on.
Where's my video? Oh, let's start video. How about that?
Hey, ooh, look at the hair. The hair.
Hey,
Still hanging.
Still hanging.
Is Pablo going to show his face? What is he looking like today, I wonder?
That's the question.
That is the question. Like... What is Pablo looking like today? We doing boho chic? Are we doing Canadian husband? Lumberjacker? What's going on today? I'm waiting with bated breath. Or is he not going to show himself at all?
He might not be showing up tonight.
This will be... I don't know what's going on here.
He was like, I'm not for this.
Well, anyway, I'm going to just go ahead and, kick it off. Welcome back to Asarina Live's After Show, Week 4, Episode 4.
Yeah.
We're just rolling right along. I'm so excited. And we're no longer limited. I have upgraded on Zoom.
Hey, we are. We are
on. We's free.
Give us free for Black History Month.
Yes. So no more cutting off towards the end. I don't have to give y'all a countdown.
The countdowns are great though. We're gonna try to keep it close to 30 minutes.
We're gonna try to keep it close though. Exactly.
But if we go over, we go over. There's the doctor.
There he is. So wait, what's the get up tonight? What is this? No hat, glasses.
We're chilling. We out here. We're chilling. Just
a tank top. We're surfer boying tonight.
Yeah.
We got basketball shorts on, barefoot, chilling.
Lord Jesus.
Let me live.
I have no words.
Yeah, I don't have any words. We're going to let the doc live. The doc's going to live.
Let me live. All right. I've been coding. I've been on a coding bender for the last 2 days.
That's your coder gear? That's what you do? That's how we do it when we code?
Yeah, this is how we code. Well, actually, we code in whatever. Once I get in the zone, that's it. It's a wrap. But I took a break today, self-care. Hit a nice 20-minute hot shower.
Lord
and, had to relax, relate, release.
That's good.
You got all the right jargon. So, since you're talking so much, you should just, introduce yourself.
Oh, true. I am a little late. My bad. Must have missed that. Dr. Paul McNeil with MB Usable Securities. We focus on making cybersecurity make sense for small businesses and medium-sized businesses. On Twitter, I am a usable sec guy. Yeah, there we go.
Coding brain.
Yeah.
Gosh darn it.
Horrible. And I'm applying for that thing in New York.
Oh, okay.
For the sorry, I'm coming back to being a person. Give me a second. Y'all are the first people I talked to today for real. I've just been coding.
Jesus Christ.
All I've been doing is calling my computer all kinds of not computer names as my code hasn't compiled or whatever. So there's a cybersecurity moonshot challenge in New York that any small business or startup can apply to when they have a product that they feel can help small businesses in the city with cybersecurity. I think the last time they did, I think this is their third go around. The last time they did it, it focused on different aspects of city life. And so this year is cybersecurity. So the deadline is tomorrow. I've been working on it on and off. I've mostly been coding, so I'm trying to get it knocked out before tomorrow afternoon. So, yeah.
You're such a
It'll be interesting to see how that goes.
Yeah. Best of luck.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, indeed.
Shemay.
I will introduce myself. I am Sarah Morgan. I am the Chief Excellence Officer of Buzzaroni LLC, which is a human resources leadership and management coaching and consulting firm. You can find me on the interwebs, most easily at The Buzz on HR. The Buzz on HR everywhere.
So I realized that I never ever introduced myself, which is very much aligned with this whole thing, because I'm being selfless. You know, so as Serena Live, it's all about me. So I'm like, well, let me just give them all the shots.
Or old and forgetful.
Probably shut your,
hey,
you know, watch yourself. Okay,
where's the love?
Just watch it.
It's right here.
Watch
it. Here. All love. All love.
So Janine Truitt, Chief Innovations Officer for Talent Think Innovations LLC, New York, and I would love for you not to cough during my intro.
Sorry,
mute yourself.
Rude.
Mute yourself.
But anyhow, my firm, I'm a business consulting firm where I focus on workforce planning, digital transformation projects, and tech advisory. And if you want to find out more about Talent Think, you can find out more at www.talentthinkinnovations.com. I'm also at Zarina of HR everywhere. So, did you mute yourself so you can cough like a maniac?
Yes, because there was some coughing that needs to happen, and I forgot there was a mute button. My bad.
Yeah, you know.
I'm slipping. I'm gonna get my intro down like y'all soon too. I'm gonna be like, go to www.mbusecurity.com. See,
it's a skill. We've been at this for a while. It's a skill.
For a minute, yes. You got to have your 15-second elevator pitch ready on deck, like bam. You got to
give me money, and I'll do marketing analytics and help you be secure. There we go. 15 seconds. I'm on it.
Blah.
It works. It works. So self-love, guys, how are you working this? Do you feel like, I do have a specific question. Do you feel like self-love is easier at the age you're at right now? Or do you feel like there was a different time in your life in which you were able to cultivate this in a better way? Like, is it kind of age specific, or is it just like a lifelong kind of challenge in your mind?
I think that I'm better at it now than I was when I was younger. It's just more of a focal point now, but I think life caused that to be necessary. So I had to, because I think you touched on this a lot in the show. For women, professional women, mothers, wives, like suddenly our identities shift, and so much of what we are starts to be about who we are to other people and not who we are to ourselves. And so it becomes so easy for us to get lost in that. And like most women, you know, that happens. And so then you have to start to redefine who you are for yourself. And you start to develop selfish habits in order to establish boundaries between yourself and other people. So I wish there was a moment in the show where you said that we teach little people, kids, when we're young, that you're supposed to think of others, and we don't teach the children how to think of themselves. And I was like, ooh, let me write that down, because that is so critical. It's particularly for this generation coming up in the stages that they are. You got to learn. That's a skill that I think we need to be helping young people cultivate early, healthy boundaries and self-love, because if not, you get into your late 20s, 30s, 40s, and the struggle will be real, because suddenly you will find yourself being defined by other people and just confused, you know, about yourself and your existence. So it's easier for me now because of the journey that I've gone through, but I think my journey would have been easier if I had taken more time to get to know myself and establish those boundaries sooner.
Yeah, agreed. I desperately need a man's point of view, because I really don't know how you guys internalize that.
Yes.
I really don't know. I'm really,
Speak for the
I
kind.
really
Speak for your kind. Yes.
speak for your species, because I really don't know.
I stayed low key on the show on purpose. Y'all about to have me out here. Okay, so I'm gonna preface everything with saying I have no children. I am single, and so my self-love is a little different because most every day is pretty much what I want to do. I'm not married or anything, and so, but I do think that since now that maybe like my mid-20s. I've been more focused on really understanding what I'm passionate about and things that make me tick. And I think prior to that, when you're at home, or especially a West Indian home, no one cares about you or your opinions.
So true.
You know what I mean? Like your opinions, how you feel, where you live, what you thought, it doesn't matter. No. And so I think that getting out of that, and then I was in a school environment for a really long time, and also there you're assigned what you're assigned. You might have some flexibility here or there, but for the most part you spend a large amount of your life really just living up to our external expectations. And so I think I'm finally at a place where I'm able to understand. I've been very focused, like Sarah was saying, on understanding what are the things that I like, what are the things that make me tick, what do I need, and it comes from being purposeful about that. And so I think that I'm a much better judge of what I need now, and I'm still growing, but than I was before. Because before, as long as I was living up to whatever the external expectation was, anything else that I felt I would feel was wrong or crazy or something like, of course I should be happy I'm getting these grades or doing these other things, and it wasn't focused on myself. So yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah, I feel like you channeled me right then, because I was like, please say something about West Indians and how they just wreck people's lives out.
You know what? And I felt it. No lie, I felt it. I was like, she would say something about this West Indian side. I'll throw this out there. It's so real. So my dad is from Charleston, South Carolina, and very similar to West India culture. I don't know. I feel like my dad is the most West Indian American I could have had as a parent. I have more in common with people with West Indian dads than I do people with African American dads, which is hilarious to me. But yeah, same thing. Children are to kind of be seen and not heard for a while until you kind of fight for that right to have a voice. And even then, it's medium volume.
Right. But so it's interesting because I operated the same, and then there's the whole birth order thing too, because I'm the oldest. So it's myself and my brother. So I very early felt an immense pressure to rise to the challenges of everything. I was the one that was expected to do everything right. And I was the example for like all these other little cousins and everybody. It was like, you see what Janine's doing, like aspire to that. And it was cool. It was all right through my 20s. But by the time I hit like my 30s, I was like, this is some bullshit. I don't want to be nobody's role model. I don't want to be nobody's role model. I want to cut the fuck up. And now I'm 35, going on 36.
Hey.
Listen, I'm what I call regressing gracefully. I'm like, don't watch me.
Conversations. You have a taboo conversations online. You're instigating trouble. I'm already scared for next week. I was like, I'll be over here. I'll be mute the whole time. I'm just gonna move my lips. Mute.
Come on, man. Oh, you can't go mute. Right. We doing this. This the after show.
Really, but I really got to a point of rebelliousness because of those pressures. Just about when I was, hitting that precipice of 30. And, I effectively had to teach everybody around me that I am a normal human being like everyone else. And you really shouldn't expect me to never screw up, because not that I'm looking for it. I might, and it should be respected, you know? And I really had to be intentional about teaching people how to treat me. So there was about a 6 to 7 year period in which I had to rewire and uncondition my family to understand that it was going to be my way and not their way anymore. Like, in as much as I respect what that upbringing gave me, and it gave me a whole lot that I'm so very thankful for, but I really needed to make that statement for myself to free myself from the bondage of other people's expectations. It was just too much, you know. I mean, you already become disappointed with yourself just by virtue of shit that happens in life. And then when you have to then think about like a whole bevy of people who you would otherwise be disappointing on top of that for like the most frivolous reasons, like West Indians get angry for like bullshit, literally, honestly. And so it's just like, why are you upset again? No, your upset does not matter to me. That I'm upset with me matters to me, and that is it, you know. So there, like, I mean, I had to. There were people that I cut off for years, who I love dearly as family, but I had to let them know, like, it really isn't about you, and if you want to be in my life, you have to accept this me, you know, however she shows up, you've got to accept that. And so now it's good because everybody tiptoes. They used to see like everybody tiptoed around my brother because he's ignorant. I love him, but he's been ignorant. You know what I'm saying? So it's interesting to watch how people like that who come out of the gate swinging, they almost actually end up better off than us two shoes. You know what I'm saying? Because when you're a goody two shoe, you end up pleasing nobody, not yourself, not the people that you're so trying to please, nobody. The person that does exactly what they want to do, they're always pleasing themselves. And even if people get pissed off, guess what? They get over it. My brother's done all sorts of shit. Yeah. And it's still like he comes around, it's like, hey, Tony, oh my, right? And like nothing ever happened. Still loved, still applauded. Everyone loves them. So I'm like, well, shit, I could have fucked up a hell of a lot more than I did. But I just didn't have the chops to do it.
Yeah, and it's so crazy that you mentioned that because I am the oldest as well. I have a younger brother, and I literally had a similar conversation with my dad 2 days ago. I was just kind of like, I kind of grew up where I was afraid to do certain things, and my brother could care less. My brother would just live his best life, and it is what it is, you know. I think to your point, for me, okay, when I was 26, I'm pretend I'm in y'all's age group to talk like it so long ago. So back when I was 26, and let me live. And so I was 26, 25 in my last year of my PhD program. I just realized like I wasn't doing a lot of things that I wanted to do. And the advice I was getting from people, the people I was trying to live up to their expectations and things of that nature, they aren't really happy people themselves. And I was just kind of like, well, y'all aren't really happy. What you're telling me to the best of your knowledge is the way things go. But now that I'm here, I'm like, nah, this isn't really what I thought it was going to be. And so I spent the last 2 years kind of just forging my own kind of path and doing my own thing. Sometimes they're on board. Most times they're not, you know, because it's life. But I'm becoming more comfortable with that. And so I'm probably like in year something of that 5 to 6 year journey you talked about.
It's beautiful. It's great.
What's interesting for me is that I'm the youngest. But yet I was the most responsible one because my brother and my sister wilded out, and my parents were like, "Oh hell no, young lady, you ain't doing shit. Like you gonna get these good grades, you gonna go to college, you gonna stay on the straight and narrow." So that pressure to be different, to be, you know, straight laced and responsible, that was the pressure that I had. Like, hell, like, nah, you won't be wilding out. There won't be any of that. So I had a different, like, I envy babies of the family who got to just do whatever the hell, because that was not my experience whatsoever. And I'm by far the youngest. Like, my sister's 7 years older than me. So I am like far and away the youngest. I should have been able to get away with all kinds of shit. And yet, none of that was happening. It was very much like, you are going to be responsible. You know, you were a surprise and you're going to pay off for us because
showed up.
Listen, my parents thought they were done, and I was like, hey, but they're glad, they're glad, because if they had just been left with them other two, whew, yeah, it was a lot of,
you were the balancer.
I balanced it all out, but yeah, there was no shenanigans to be had or allowed for me. I was definitely not gonna wild out. Like, it wasn't happening. What's different though is because I moved, like, I went to college away from home, and then I didn't go back. So my 20s and 30s, I was by myself, and so I got to kind of create my own communities, which made the setting of boundaries and rules of how I was going to engage with people a little bit easier, because I wasn't beholden to a family unit that I had to be worried about. I was in Virginia, they were in New Jersey, and then I was in North Carolina and they were in New Jersey. So it wasn't until my mom moved here almost 3 years ago, and now she's 3 miles away, and I'm experiencing those things now that most people experience in their 20s, and but I'm much older, much more outspoken. So it was quick to be like, no, we're not doing that. Like, my mom will still call and be like, oh yeah, why don't you come over and do the no, we won't be doing the da day. Like, that's not happening. I have a husband, 5 children, a full-time job, and a business. Like, the schedule has no space for this today. So yeah, but I'm glad for having her in close proximity and everything that we get to do together. But I'm also glad that it happened now, and I'm able to set those boundaries, because otherwise it would have probably drove me more crazy than just me being on my own.
Yeah, no, totally.
I'm gonna take a clip of that and send it to my brother and be like, see, if I hadn't been so awesome, your life would have been very different. You're
very
welcome.
Different. Yeah. Send it to all the younger siblings and be like, see, you lucky I didn't wild out.
Exactly. You're welcome.
But the interesting, so what's funny is about 2 months ago, my brother and I were having this discussion with my dad about, like, just our respective upbringing. And I had mentioned that, I probably could have done with getting into some more things in my younger years. And my dad's just like, well, yeah, I mean, you could have done that, or you could have done this. And I'm like,
wait, what? Like,
who are you?
Who are you?
Like, that was not the message. And he's like, oh, you could have, nobody pushed you to go to college. That was one of the things. Nobody pushed you to go to college. I said, wait, what? I'm like, wait a minute, seriously? I said, so if I had come to you and said I wasn't going to college, but instead taking a gap year to, like, explore myself, like, with, I don't know, shamans or something like that, like that.
That shit would not have been okay.
It would not have gone over well. Okay. I'm like, what do you mean? That
revisionist history. Revisionist history. They hit this age and they forget everything. I remember my dad calling me. I was having problems in some classes in grad school. And I was like, man, I don't know how I'm going to pass these classes or whatever. He was like, it's about learning. It's about the experience. It's not, why are you so hung up on grades? Because for the first...
Who are you and what have you done?
Exactly. I was like, what are you talking about? You literally made me like this.
I am what you made me.
Yeah.
Like, who raised you? Yeah, you did. Yeah, you did.
The grades, they're subjective, and all of these... what is happening? And then, like, grad school being an option. I didn't know that people stopped school in high school until I was getting ready to go to college, and some of my friends were like, oh, we're done with school. And I was like, well, how would you get a job and live life? Because in my house, a master's was, the PhD was optional. You were getting a master's. Like, the PhD was like, oh, maybe. And so to realize that that was not the case, oh man, talk about mind blown.
Oh my God. It's, it's interesting. And all of this is the reason why I try my best to be so intentional with my own kids about how I'm affecting them. I don't know about you too, Sarah. Like, I'm so hyper aware of like these things, like, down to stuff like that. With grades, it's like, especially up here with this stupid ass Common Core that we got.
No, we got dumbass. We got the Common Core too. It's
I'm
ridiculous.
just like, look, do your best, and like leave the rest to whatever it's gonna be. And that's been my spiel. I don't stress that stuff. I'm not gonna have kids crying and feeling like they want to go hang themselves because they don't know algebraic expressions that are really slated for like ninth graders. I'm just not, it's just not the lane I need to be in. And, even too, like with my oldest, I'm hyper aware of like not making her feel too ultra responsible to her younger siblings too early. So she understands that like they all need to take care of each other. We try to impress upon them, like, this is what you got. This is your family unit. God forbid anything happens to me or your dad, y'all are going to always have each other. But I'm very hyper aware of making sure that she's a true child, able to make all of the childlike mistakes, even though I want to crack her skull some days. But, she's allowed. She's allowed. And I don't want her to ever feel like she's got to be a second me, or rise so high to an expectation that she's not capable of in the moment that I may want it for her. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree. I go through that. I went through that a lot with my son because we divorced when they were small, and he was 3 going on 4, and I can remember people saying, oh, he's like the man of the house now. No, he's 4. He ain't the man of nothing. He's not even fully potty trained. Like,
potty trained. I was going to say, he ain't even a man of the potty yet at that stage.
Right. He ain't got full control of his bowels. And you talk about he the man of the house. He don't pay no bills. Like, what? Like, no, we're not doing this. So no, I never wanted them to feel that level of responsibility. I still don't. I think they need to be responsible for their age. Like, I think there needs to be a age appropriate level of responsibility. I agree with you about looking out for one another. Like, y'all are siblings. You have to look out for one another and have care for one another, and defend one another. Like, if some shit goes down, you got to have your brother's back, your sister's back. But I don't want to put that burden on them to feel like they have to walk a certain path or do a certain thing. They're getting tweens and teens now, so I'm starting to recognize that the decisions about college and those sorts of things are looming. So I want to encourage them to explore their interests and figure out what it is that they want to do, but not push them in any one particular direction. I've had that conversation with my daughter a few times because she's very creative. She likes dance and she likes fashion and those sorts of things, and that's not necessarily a traditional 4-year college path. So her path is going to look different, than her siblings. And she's got to know that that's okay. And that if she goes to a technical school or a 2-year program, while, her other siblings have done 4-year programs because of the nature of what they're interested in, that there's nothing inferior about that. There's enough messages out in the world telling them that they ain't shit, they ain't enough, and I don't want that message to come across from me as their parent. So, and not that I felt like I got that from my own parents, but I'm just trying to be more intentional about, letting them figure things out without feeling that pressure.
Yeah, it's definitely a fine line. Like, Eleni is the same way in that she's very creative. great at art, great at science. She's probably gonna end up going. We're already talking FIT probably. You know, presuming that we're here because that's what she seems focused on, and that's okay. You know, whereas back when I was going to school, they'd been like, well, I mean, how much does it pay? You know, how much you gonna make doing that? You know, it's that kind of thing to deter you. Like I remember talking about potentially going to culinary school, and it was like, ooh, that's a good backup, but here's the kicker about it though. So I am the cook of the family, and every time I throw something here, it's like, Janine, you should have a bed and breakfast. Oh, should I now?
Oh, should I? Because when I wanted to go to culinary school,
because I kind of remember wanting to go to culinary school, but y'all weren't trying to hear me or feel me. So y'all just enjoy them appetizers I made from scratch. You just enjoy them.
And that's another thing I try to be intentional about with them as well, is getting them to understand that the things that they love and are passionate about or just are innately talented with can be lucrative. Y'all know I'm developing my podcast, and my son is my engineer. Like he's learning how to edit sounds and all those sorts of things. And those are things that he's been doing that for years. He's had a YouTube channel since he was 9. So he already knows how to do. He's like, oh, well, I can edit video. I can edit audio. This is not a problem. And I pay him a little money for doing it. But there are people who build whole careers editing other people's podcasts, and it's quite lucrative. So getting them to understand too that it doesn't necessarily have to be college and a 9 to 5. You know, it might be, and I've told this story. I've got a friend right now whose son graduated college. He's taking a gap year between now and when he starts med school. He is like driving for Uber, walking dogs for WAG, and doing graphics on Fiverr, and is completely content with life. And she's terrified that he's going to be like, this is the way. Like I can, you know, and just be like, fuck med school. I'm going to walk these dogs. Like she's terrified, you know, that's what's going to happen. But, you know, the world of work just looks different. And I think encouraging our kids to have, you know, multiple streams of income, not give up their imagination, not give up that right to play is just really important. And we got to model that, you know, for them too, because I got crayons in the desk right now. Like I love my adult coloring books. They are essential. Sure. So
I think we just got to encourage people to follow their happy. Like I'd gone to my high school reunion in December, and there were a few people I'd gone to school with, and, you know, you're chatting it up, and naturally the first thing you discuss is, oh, so what are you doing? And there were like at least 2 of them that were like, you know, I'm back in school, back at oh, where do you live? I'm with the parents. And like immediately I could see how they were cringing inside to have to say that. And I was like, dude, it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Like you pick, you pick something that didn't work, and so you're trying at something again, and sometimes you got to go back to home base to, you know, get your bearings so you can go off again. I was like, there's really no shame in that. And it happened twice, and I was just like, you know, why are we so conditioned to make these judgments about people because they're you know, like he's happy, legitimately happy in the work he's doing. If you're happy doing the work, God bless you. You live in your parents' house, it works for them, it works for you. God bless you. It goes back to that whole piece I was saying on the show about comparison. It's like there's this whole, and you mentioned it too, Paul, before, this whole, everybody's so wrapped up in this social media thing. It's like everybody's living their best life. Everybody's traveling and everybody's doing cool stuff. And here I am in my dad's basement trying to get through this social work degree, you know, not sexy, but it's sexy for him in his life, in his lane, because eventually he'll make good money and he'll be able to move out and he'll have his own place and all will be well. But it's like this mindset, it's like we trick ourselves into thinking like everybody's doing something so much more monumental than what I'm doing in this present moment. And it's so far from the truth. Like I can't tell you how many people I've met who I thought were doing great things, and it's like they don't know what the fuck they're doing either. It's like, you know, like they're just as lost too, but in a different way. It's just they get to do it in Bali versus in somebody's basement. You know what I mean? Like perspective.
Yeah. No, I agree.
Yeah. Well, good chat, troops. This was good, I think.
Yeah.
I didn't have to use my little sign that I made. I'm excited.
What sign did you make?
My in my lane, because I didn't know how parental we were gonna get today, so I was just gonna be like, all right, I'm pausing.
You're ridiculous.
First
of all,
you made a whole sign.
Hey, listen,
I cannot.
Next week is all you, boo.
Oh, most definitely. This is
Taboo
next week.
Taboo acts of love.
It's about to be grown and lit.
It's about to be grown and sexy.
I'm so young. I'm not ready.
So what y'all got going on before we close up?
Black Blogs Matter. It's still going strong. We're on week 4 of the blog challenge and day 7 of the microblog challenge. Follow the hashtag, read the content. It's hot fire. People are upset. I said the stats are high and the retweets are low. People's feelings is saying they feelings.
Yo, those are the craziest metrics ever to be proud of. That's what's up.
It's making people think, making people stop and think and stop and stare. That's really good. And I'm a week away from the launch of my podcast, Leading in Color. So be looking out for that on the countdown. I've just recorded my 3rd episode, so I'm launching all 3 of them. Bam, bam, bam. Just straight out the gate. And then I'll roll into my bi-weekly content after that. So I'm very excited about all of that. And then I'm on the countdown to Work Human. I'll be in Nashville in March with Viola Davis.
Let's go.
And George Clooney. Let's go.
Wait, are you guys gonna link?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's happening.
Absolutely. She's not gonna make me drive 4 hours to do it either. She's already creeping up.
I'm in the city.
She's creeping up.
The shade is a little much for me. I ain't nobody
20 minutes from the house.
But I am thankful. However,
it's gonna be dope. It's gonna be dope. For me, I'm working on a couple of things right now. Let's see. First off, I guess an associate of mine started the movement on Instagram, 3/5 a person, from 3/5 a person. That's the hashtag. You should check the hashtag out. It's really cool. It's a lot of just young professionals bringing awareness to the fact that we were once, 3/5 of a person, and then talking about the different accomplishments that they've made. So it's a lot of doctors, it's a lot of entrepreneurs, opera singers, like just a lot of people. It's a very dope hashtag to check out on Instagram, and I think he may be starting it on Twitter. So that's the one. The second thing I mentioned already, I'm trying to see what's really good with this New York cybersecurity moonshot challenge, and then I'm also working more with a couple of businesses, trying to get a couple more clients for my marketing analytics and just business development around your data-driven revenue stream generation stuff. So
very, very
that's what we're doing.
Very cool. Well, thank you all for joining us for episode 4, and be sure to follow everybody, connect with us, let us know what you're thinking on these topics that we keep covering, and we'll see you again next week, same time.
That's right.
Different topic. All right, guys. Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
I don't know how to close